Greetings, lovely people, and welcome to yet another discussion surrounding the death, assassination, whatever you want to call it, of Charlie Kirk. And at this point, we do actually have a little bit of information. So, since my last video, we have actually found out who the assassin, I suppose, was, who the actual killer was. His name is Tyler Robinson, and he's a bit of an enigma, it must be said. So I'll be pulling very heavily from Ken Klippenstein's reporting. I will have a link in the description below, of course. But yeah, we have a bunch of different information surrounding who exactly Robinson is, and I'm sure we are going to find out far more information in the future, especially because he is currently in custody. But yeah, we have a few statements, I suppose, made by friends and family of Robinson, as well as a few communications on Discord, which, really paint a confusing picture, it must be said. So, first off, I want to just start with something that I did kind of predict in the previous video, and that is, whilst Robinson himself isn't a trans person, they are being given a little bit of ammunition here because Robinson was in a romantic relationship with a trans individual. I'm not going to go into too much detail with them because there's not really too much out there, unfortunately. It was Robinson's roommate, and they are a trans individual, believed to be male to female, but it's not fully confirmed in any way that I've seen. In no way that I kind of trust, at least. I don't believe it's been verified one way or the other. We have a name, but that doesn't really lead us anywhere either. And in general, I just don't want to throw any more fuel onto the fire of the whole transphobia angle that is being taken by the right wing currently. But it does mean that they do have ammunition for that, and it has already been used. There have been a lot of anti-trans narratives going around and a lot of anti-LGBT communications just going around on the right, across social media, across news, like on Fox, and just generally, it's not looking great. And the idea that things are just going to get worse definitely appears to be correct, which is it's just unfortunate. And once again, just like with the last video, whilst I am taking a few parts from some actual reporting, this is very much just my stream of consciousness. I am just kind of saying my thoughts on this situation because right now there is still not enough information for me to properly break everything down and actually discuss in full detail. We just really don't know. Until Robinson actually tells us his motives, we really do not know. But from all accounts, it essentially sounds like he was becoming more and more political over the last few years, which is pretty standard for a 22-year-old, and was leaning more left than his Republican family, which, once again, also pretty normal. However, his friends generally describe him as pretty apolitical. It is very much the case that he discussed on occasion news topics that were political, but never really giving any sort of opinion on those certain news topics, which I think speaks volumes to the kind of person that does this sort of thing. And I kind of mentioned it before, the idea that these sorts of assassins, killers, whatever, that are seemingly at first glance politically motivated, oftentimes are really hard to read into what their specific political leanings were. And fair enough, Robinson is a apparently bisexual, pro-LGBT individual who had, some left-leaning beliefs, but was also a firm believer in the Second Amendment and other elements of right-wing ideology. Someone that was very much, almost as stupid as it sounds, a true centrist in many regards. It's difficult to say for sure what the motive will end up being, and I'm still thinking if a motive is given at all, it will be in relation to Kirk's constant transphobic remarks and anti-LGBT sentiment. And in general, I just think it's going to make things so much worse if and when Robinson actually gives some sort of definite answer as to why this was done. In communications with his partner, there was a push that it was due to Kirk's words, which anyone could have predicted that is, kind of par for the course of these sorts of situations. Kirk said a lot of things that upset many people on all sides, especially on the extreme right, and then I'm going to say far left, but not necessarily the extreme left. Obviously, extreme left included, but yeah, the left and the far reaches of the right wing didn't like Kirk for various opposing reasons. So it was very obvious that Kirk's speech, in one way or another, either not being extreme enough or being far too extreme, was going to be what the core reasoning was. And it very much seems that that is the case here. So, as I said, we don't really have too much to go on, really. They're trying to push the idea that gaming was a cause. Obviously, the reference that has been made to Helldivers and apparently even to Deep Rock Galactic, of all things, have been used to push that violent video games are the cause of this. And I am tired of hearing that narrative, honestly, and it clearly isn't the case. This is a perfectly normal 20-something who was just playing video games with their friends and decided to commit an atrocity, essentially. And I'll repeat what I said in the previous video. I don't think Kirk deserved this. I really disagree with the things that Kirk has said over the years, but I would be lying if I said that there is any world where this makes sense as a punishment for what he said. I've said a few times since this whole situation happened that at most what he deserved was a punch. And I know that is still not a good thing to be saying, but that is the extent of what I think he possibly deserved for what he said. Because while what he said was oftentimes mean-spirited, hateful, often inciting violence in an roundabout way, he himself never did the violence. And while I know that isn't the be-all end-all, and I know that, it's a very famous turn of phrase of words can feel like violence, and, that has been mentioned a lot in relation to both this situation and many others in the past, but it is very much a case of what he did was simply give, however wrong I may think it is, or you may think it is, an opinion. And whilst that opinion may lead to damage, and realistically has led to damage, it wasn't correct for Kirk to die. And unfortunately, with Robinson currently looking at potential for the death sentence, due to Utah having that as part of its criminal system, I am someone who, whilst being against the death penalty, understands that people think that a murderer should be put to death. I don't agree with that, personally. And by all accounts, this person appears to be a pretty normal individual who was possibly radicalized in some way, but more realistically was just upset and angry at an individual they saw as attacking people that they loved. And at this point, I don't think there's any narrative that could be spun that isn't going to lead to more violence. I think at this point it's too late. And I say this not only watching America from the outside, but also watching Britain from within. the right wing is taking over in such a major way. And target number one, of course, being immigrants. Target number 2 is the LGBT community. And whilst personally I may not be an immigrant, I am part of that community. So, yes, I am scared. And that's really all I'm going to say about it. Tyler Robinson is likely to become a point that the right wing used to discriminate and hate and justify violence. And it appears that all Tyler truly wanted to do was make the world a little bit better. But I suppose we'll know in the future. Sorry for another sad video. I did spread these out with a Peacemaker review or thoughts video. So I'll probably do the same between this and the next depressing video I have to make, but yeah. Link in the description below to Kleppenstein, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, I'm so sorry. His reporting will be linked in the description below, and otherwise, that's going to be it from me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
It's been a long week. I feel like I could use a vacation. I can hardly think. It's like the worst song you've ever heard on